I found an article by one Jonathan Greenberg, and I'm not sure where this was published, but he's the author. It's 3 big reasons why Bernie Sanders could still win this election, even though he picked up delegates over the weekend because of the primaries that were held out west. It didn't give him enough. Nobody has enough yet to cinch anything. But Jonathan Greenberg is an independent journalist and a blogger with progressivesource.com. And he is also editor of the Sonoma Independent.org. And he writes, corporate media has a story, and it's sticking to it. Hillary Clinton has the Democratic nomination in the bag. Bernie hasn't a chance. Talk of big change may attract the under 30 crowd, but the majority of Democratic voters don't buy it. If you're not for Hillary, you're backing a loser, so you may as well stay home on primary day. Right? But Americans who are filling stadiums to support the peaceful evolution that is Bernie Sanders' second American Revolution, those people should not lose heart. Bernie insists that he is in the race to win, and it's still quite possible. Clinton is far from invincible. Greenberg writes, as a veteran investigative reporter, I have been researching this contest for months and cannot find any evidence that a candidate has ever become a Democratic nominee with the unfavorability ratings that Clinton has, or with a criminal FBI investigation underway, or with such a high percentage of young voters favoring her opponent. And even though the corporate media has spent endless time covering this election, it has not reported these important facts. And despite a robust First Amendment and staffs that include most of the best investigative reporters in the world, no major news organization has ever investigated what influence the $153 million that corporations and organizations paid in so-called speaking fees to Hillary and Bill Clinton during the past 15 years might have bought or brought. $153 million, Christ. Nobody has reported on how this money and tens of millions in additional corporate campaign donations for Hillary Clinton has influenced her positions. A handful of multinational corporations today own America's mass media, but they do not own us. We have our social networks, and we are using them. Just as Bernie has made political history by relying on small individual donations instead of corporate PACs and billionaires, we, the people, have a chance to share information without corporate gatekeepers determining what we read or hear. It is web-based, democratizing media that is spreading Bernie's grassroots revolution. Citizens can quickly share information with large numbers of people, and as the enormous support for Sanders has demonstrated, effectively counter biased corporate media coverage and deceptive corporate financial TV ads. We can share, for instance, the following scenarios that could very well result in Bernie Sanders winning the Democratic nomination for president. Number 1, voters may uncover corporate media's biggest secret, which is on health care, marijuana, and GMOs, Bernie, not Hillary, represents the views of 80% of Democrats. Here's some big news that no corporate media has deemed fit to print. According to an authoritative December 2015 Kaiser Research poll, 81% of Democrats strongly or somewhat favor Medicare for all. This is the Sanders position, which our media pundits tell us is so far out of line with the American voter. In fact, more than half of all American voters want Medicare for all. half of all American voters want Medicare for all. And the poll found Bernie's position is significantly more popular than Obamacare. A few months ago, Clinton told Americans that Medicare for all is a system, quote, that will never, ever come to pass, end quote, Hillary Clinton. The Kaiser poll showed that less than 1 out of 6 Democrats agree with Hillary's barbed opposition to Medicare for all. Hillary's campaign has gone so far as to slander Sanders by claiming that Medicare for all will take health insurance from people who have it now. The Intercept, the independent website for investigative journalism, reported that Clinton has received more than $2.8 million in speaking fees from the health industry during the past few years for just 13 speeches. Its expose in The Intercept was titled Hillary Clinton's Single-Payer Pivot Greased by Millions in Industry Speech Fees. Is there anything, just as an aside, is there any corporate entity that Hillary Clinton has not accepted money from? Jesus, God. Back to Jonathan Greenberg. Hillary Clinton also stands far to the right of most Democrats, and even Americans in general, when it comes to decriminalizing marijuana. Bernie supports this. Hillary wants to study it more. The single issue reflects the greatest distinction between the two candidates in addressing the nation's out-of-control prison population, yet pundits continue to suggest that there is no difference between them, Clinton and Sanders, when it comes to civil rights and the school-to-prison pipeline. The decriminalization of marijuana would curb not only the racially targeted drug arrests that feed our nation's notorious prison plantations, but it would also provide relief for the tens of thousands of parolees who continue to have their lives destroyed by being returned to jail for testing positive for marijuana on their drug tests. A startling admission by Richard Nixon's top aide, reported in the latest Harper's Magazine, revealed what critics of the DEA and war on drugs have long suspected, that they were created to suppress African Americans and dissidents. Remember last week when we talked about that? More than two-thirds of Democrats and 58% of all Americans favor Sanders' decriminalization position. Hillary's position, shared by fewer than one-third of Democrats, is to keep marijuana illegal except in states that allow it for medicinal use. Clinton wants to move marijuana from its current criminalized status as a Schedule I drug with no known use to a Schedule II drug with some known medical benefits, like opiates and cocaine. Hillary believes that marijuana should remain as illegal under federal law as cocaine, empowering the continuation of the federal war on marijuana by U.S. attorneys, armies of DEA SWAT teams, and a Kafkaesque racket of IRS and bank regulatory rules. Bernie Sanders would remove marijuana from the federal schedule of illegal drugs entirely. He would leave it to the states to decide how to treat it. More than 40 years since the taxpayer-financed terror campaign against millions of Americans who chose marijuana over more harmful drugs like alcohol began, Bernie Sanders would end the federal war on weed. Then there's genetically modified food. More than 92% of Democrats favor mandatory labeling of GMO food. Sanders is one of the nation's most outspoken proponents of GMO labeling, and this July, Vermont will become the first state in the nation to mandate this. Hillary is one of the nation's most prominent supporters of GMO food and Monsanto. She was reportedly paid $325,000 to speak at a 2014 biotech conference, during which she said that the industry needed not to label, but to learn how to better market its GMO products. Yep. Is there any industry that the Clintons, both or either of them, have not taken millions of dollars? Is there? I can't. I mean, I don't think they exist. Number two, a criminal indictment of Clinton over email scandal could derail her candidacy. So the greatest wild card in this election is whether Hillary Clinton will be indicted on criminal charges prior to her election. The FBI is in the midst of a fully independent criminal investigation into Clinton and her aides over her use of a private email server while Secretary of State. A sober, insightful interview with a former U.S. Attorney General about the federal laws that Clinton may have violated is available online. Hillary has only half of the pledged delegates that she needs from the primary to secure a nomination. Bernie Sanders will need to win about 58% of the remaining contest if he is to succeed. Seems like a very tall order, but if Hillary is indicted during the next month and then faces a criminal trial and endless subpoenas, the 58% threshold may not seem so challenging. Now, let me digress. This, of course, was written before Sanders picked up the delegates that he picked up in Alaska, Washington, and Hawaii over the weekend. Moreover, the article goes on, if Hillary does win a majority of primary delegates and is indicted after that, but before the July 25th Democratic National Convention, those hundreds of superdelegates that right now support her would be free to change their minds and support Sanders. As the Washington, D.C. tip sheet The Hill described last week, if a Clinton criminal trial were underway, the Democrats would face a very high likelihood of losing the White House in November to Trump or Cruz. In that instance, Hillary's coronation by the Democratic Party machine might be cut short, and the superdelegates could use their power to appoint Bernie Sanders instead.